Message to carers and the allowance that's being paid to them.
Well, carers do such an amazing job on behalf of all of us, and I think it's important we support them better in return. Right now, carers' allowance is the lowest level of any benefit that is paid, so I want to see it increase to the same level as job seekers' allowance, and that would help up to 100,000 carers across Scotland to the tune of £600 a year. And it's one relatively small but nevertheless important way that we can pay back carers for the outstanding contribution that they make.
And of course many of them are women.
Many carers are women, not exclusively women, but women care for children, often for elderly parents or spouses as well. But the fact of the matter is, men and women, whatever age carers are, they do an amazing job. They do it out of love, but because they do that, they save the state in the form of the NHS and local government millions of pounds every year. And it's important that we recognise that, but also make sure that we're doing everything we can to give them the support they need.
David Cameron, Tory plans today, English votes from the Lodge. What do you make of it?
Well, what David Cameron is saying today is a direct breach of the Smith Commission proposals. It's also, I think, a sign of the growing desperation in the heart of the Conservative campaign. I've said many times in the past that where there are matters that are genuinely English only and have no impact on Scotland, then Scottish MPs shouldn't vote on them. The problem is many of the issues that are characterised as English only issues are anything but that. Take issues relating to the English Health Service, for example. Decisions on that has a direct impact on Scottish budget. So I've said that SNP MPs there to make Scotland's voice heard and stand up for Scotland will vote against any further privatisation of the health service in England, because that protects Scotland's budget. And in those issues, it's not just right and legitimate that Scottish MPs vote, it's absolutely essential that MPs protecting Scotland's interests cast their vote on these matters.
Do these plans jeopardise the Barnett formula?
Well, these plans, I think, are in direct contrast to what David Cameron said during the referendum, when he was at pains to say that Scotland's voice would be heard within the UK if we voted no in the referendum. Now it seems he wants to do everything in his power to reduce Scotland's voice within the UK. It's now, according to David Cameron, only legitimate for our voice to be heard if we're saying what he wants us to say and if we're voting the way he wants us to vote. Well, that's outrageous and unacceptable. Scotland has got a right to make its voice heard in whatever way it chooses, and if it chooses to do that by voting SNP because it knows SNP MPs will make our voice heard more loudly, then that is perfectly legitimate and David Cameron should respect it.
IFS report yesterday. What are your plans for public spending? Are people in the dark?
Well, we are, as the IFS report acknowledges on its summary introduction, we are proposing real terms increases in total spending over the life of the next Parliament. We're the only party doing that. The IFS makes a number of flawed assumptions about the SNP's plan. It, for example, it doesn't take any recognition of the fact that we would raise revenue through a crackdown on tax avoidance. It actually praises us for not making figures up, but then credits other parties with made up figures and credits the SNP with nothing at all. It also makes a wrong assumption about what we plan for borrowing in 2019-20. It says at that year borrowing would be 1.4% of GDP. Our plans would have it at 1.6% of GDP. But also you've got Labour saying that the IFS underestimates the cuts that Labour is going to make. So Labour are saying it underestimates their cuts. It certainly underestimates SNP spending. So it's deeply flawed. The key issue in this election is that we're fighting on a clear alternative to austerity. We want to see spending increase in the next Parliament. Other parties want to see it cut, and that's the big difference.